Hello, this is Julieta Garcia. So my presentation will be on abortion, on the pro-life movement. I'll kind of go over some questions that pop up when from people that are pro-choice. I'll talk about the development of the fetal development up to the 13th month, which is the end of the first the 13th month, which is the end of the first trimester. Okay, I'll begin. I start off with a scenario. So imagine you're a scientist and you are trying to find life or trying to find signs of maybe past life on this planet. So you're guiding this rover and you find a sort of liquid on the floor that you think could be water. So you take you freeze it. You take it, you freeze it, and you bring it back to a lab. And upon closer inspection, you see that there are several clumps of eukaryotic cells, which is we have eukaryotic cells, and there's several clumps of them in this liquid that you found. After you realize that these eukaryotic cells are dividing, and you shout out, "We found life in another planet." So no scientist would say we found, something that's not alive in this planet, because a cell that divides, that goes through the process of mitosis, is alive. It's, dividing. So my question is, why is it that this would be considered life? Because there is no scientist that would say this is nothing. They would say this is life. We found life on this planet. These cells are dividing. Why is it that a fetus or a zygote is not considered life? So that's my big question. So let's kind of go over the development of a child from conception, because I believe that life begins at conception. So here we go. Okay. So I think that, hold on. We'll start with fertilization. Okay. So all living things are composed of cells. The cell is the basic unit of life. When a male sperm fertilizes an egg, you get 23 chromosomes from the sperm, which is from your father, and then you get 23 chromosomes from your mother. And these cells fuse into what is the zygote. The zygote, after fusing, after conception, after fertilization, has 46 chromosomes. That means that this little egg has it has a genetic code in it that's going to tell you what your eye color will be, male baldness, I don't know, what color hair, what color skin. That's all ready in this little egg, right? This little zygote. This this is where the fun begins, okay? Because the enzymes are activated, and this increases the metabolism of the cell, which is going to help with the cell division. And as you know, the first few days, the first week or so, is just it's the cells multiplying over and over and over inside this egg until you have like several different cells. It's important to understand this because it's kind of an explanation of what's going on and why this is a living thing. Because if it wasn't alive, it would be doing nothing. Something that's not alive is dead. So just the fact that these cells are replicating, they're dividing, they're creating more cells, and they start forming different specialized cells that form different parts of your bodies. That is a scientific proof that this thing inside a mother is alive. So as early as day 12, there is a forming of 3 distinct layers in the in this zygote. So you have the 3 layers, and these 3 layers develop into 3 different kinds of specialized cells. They're already specialized cells, but it will further develop into what will be your organs and stuff. So it's there's so much going on just in those first 12 days. Can you imagine? Like, it's just, life is a beautiful thing. And I absolutely love science because I feel like science really backs up the pro-life argument. So anyways, so then after that, so now we're going to get into the embryo. So at around roughly week 4, it's when the baby is considered an embryo. So after all of this division takes place, and these 3 layers form, and the baby, because it's a baby, starts developing more. At around week 4, it's when the baby is considered an embryo. By week 4, this little guy has the forebrain, eyes, it has its little heart, little arm buds, and little leg buds. And by week 8, these little knobs have elongated, and a lot of their nerve cells are actually intact, so they can feel pain. And it's around the 8th week that you can start hearing a heartbeat. Yes, like I said, science is a beautiful thing and just irrefutable. Okay, so then this is happening. Then by week 11, between week 11 and 12, a big milestone happens. It's between this week that the zygote officially becomes a fetus, which is what everybody refers, like, whenever somebody tries to say it's just a fetus, okay, well, let's see what a fetus is. So let's see what's happening as a fetus. By the end of week 12, which is also the end of the first trimester, the basic parts of all of the major organs and its organ systems have formed. They still need to develop, though, so the baby will keep developing as the months pass by. So by the 12th week, all of this is already formed. You see there's a little head, you see its little arms, the arms are growing even more, it's got its little ears. It's a living human. I can't like stress that enough. It's a living human. It's got all of its basic parts. It just needs to remain in its mom's stomach to grow into the full-size baby that we see when the mother gives birth. So that happens, and yeah, so by this week that by the first trimester. So I just kind of wanted to stress that even as from conception all the way to week 12, even through this stage, there's so much going on, and you cannot tell me that this is not a living human. It's a living human. Like, there's no if, ands, or buts. It's a living human. And like I said, I think it's a miracle of life. Like, I can't even stress enough how much, like, how much of a miracle it is to even, like, be able to know what, like, how, and, like, be able to observe how a child grows in its mother's stomach. And I thank my anatomy and physiology professors and for going very in-depth in all this. But anyways, so yeah, so that's what's happening. So I just kind of wanted to go over, like, those first few weeks to kind of stress that if, like, by this time they already have all of their by week 8 it can feel pain. The baby can feel pain. So as you can see, like, I posted a video on my PowerPoint explaining, or it's a video of an abortion, what is it called? Of an animated abortion. So they show you what happens in an abortion exactly, and how the child is ripped apart. And I don't know why people think that this is in any way humane, and that this in any way should be a mother's choice, because it should not. Okay, so here we go. So I am totally pro-choice, okay? I'm pro-choice in that you have 2 choices that you can make. You can choose not to have sex. I'm not coming from the side of, like, religion, where it's like, remain pure, but I do believe that if you make the conscious choice to have sex with another human being, you have to deal with the consequences of your actions. The purpose of sex is reproduction. That's what it is. There's certain, we as humans use sex as for pleasure, as do some certain other animals, like, for example, the bonobo. I actually wrote a research paper on the bonobo about how they use sex for pleasure and for and it was a very interesting paper. But let me just say that we have the ability to understand that sex can lead to pregnancy. Therefore, if you have sex, you need to be ready for the possibility that there could be a pregnancy. There's no, I'm pregnant, oh no, why did this happen? Oh, because I had sex, right? So let me just kill the child that's inside of me. That's not right at all. So I'm gonna go over a couple of my second choice that you have is you could put the child up for adoption, which if you're not ready to care for your child, if you think that, like, maybe your child would do better, or if you don't want your child, just give it up for adoption. There are so many couples that are willing to adopt your child. Like, I can't even express, like, I've felt a calling to adoption since I was very little. I knew that I was going to adopt. I know that I'm going to adopt as many kids as I can, because I do want them to have a wonderful home. But yeah, so that's the other choice that you have. You don't have the choice to kill your child. You just don't, because it's killing. What is killing? Killing is the conscious, like, your conscious choice, a conscious choice to take the life of another being, and that's a life in you. That's a life in you. A child is a life in you. A child is not something disposable. That's not what a child is. It's a child. Okay. So I'm going to go over now some of the questions that I've personally gotten, or like some of the statements that I've heard, because I have attended many pro-life, the pro-life walks and stuff. So I hear something like, abortion is legal and murder is not. Abortion is not murder. Like I stated, I believe that abortion is murder, and it is morally wrong. While most people don't consider abortion murder, the truth is that you're taking a child's life. I believe that unless a mother's life is at stake, abortion should be illegal and should never be a choice. It just should not. We all know that just because something is legal doesn't necessarily make it morally right. For example, take slavery. Slavery was legal at one point. Is it right? No, it's not right. For example, the killing of the Jews. It was legal. Was it right? Of course not. These were horrific events that happened, and just I'm always one of those people that think back and I'm like, how did we let things get so twisted to where these horrific things happened? Like, my mind can't wrap around, like, comprehend why any of that happened. But yeah, so that's one of the arguments, or that's one of the things that I hear is, yeah, abortion's not murder. Okay. And abortion is legal. Okay. Yeah, it's legal, but it might be legal, but it's still murder. And I wonder how long it's going to take for us to realize that this is the case. I have heard, from the pro-life movement. Okay, so why is it that murdering an expecting mother is considered a double homicide? So why is it that a lot of states consider the murder of a pregnant woman a double homicide? But when a woman decides to end the life of her child in her stomach, it's not considered homicide. What we're saying really is that it's legal to kill your child so long as you don't want it. So basically, I don't want my child, so therefore the child's life has no value. We should not get to decide the value of another human's life just for convenience. I believe that killing your child should be considered homicide. And I hear a lot of my body, my choice. That's usually when we go to protest a pro-choice event, we hear my body, my choice, my body, my choice. Okay, while I do agree that the child is inside of you, unless you suddenly have 4 arms, 4 legs, 2 heads, 4 eyes, and 2 mouths, that child is not yours. That child's not yours. Like, it's inside of your body, yes, but that child is its own person. Because remember, as we stated before, this child has its own 46 chromosomes, which makes it specifically unique. It's not you. It's not your body that you're dismembering when you have an abortion. It's not. It's your child's body. And it's really sad because they don't have the voice to speak for themselves, yet they feel, I can't imagine feeling like the feeling of being torn into pieces by a vacuum, or like, I just can't imagine it. Your baby could even have a different blood type than yours. Are you saying that that's your body? That's not your body. It's not. It might be inside of you, but it's got its own body. But yeah, so it's just, abortion is a tricky thing. Like, I mean, I don't believe that there should ever be a choice to kill your child unless the mother's life is in danger, that you know that you're going to die if you keep your child. Like, that child should be left to grow, and if you don't want it, give it up for adoption. So my whole thing is, like, either we agree that a human life has intrinsic value or not. You can't define whether something is a life or not based on your convenience, because if that were so, we could just say, what's to keep me from saying, I have this little toddler, this little 2-year-old, I can no longer take care of. I lost my job, I can't take care of it. I need, I'm financially in a bind. Let me kill it. That wouldn't, you can't argue. You can't argue that that's wrong, and then not argue that a child inside of a mother's stomach, that killing a child inside of the mother's stomach is not wrong, because it's the same thing. The only difference is the location of where the child is. In one, it's inside the mother's tummy, and the other is outside the mother's tummy, So, hold on one second. So yeah, so as I said before, I believe that life begins at conception, and I believe that science proves that. Like, it's such a beautiful, like, just looking at a child's development from conception to the 12 weeks. It's so beautiful. Like, everything that's going on, the cell division, like, it's all of that is so, it's a miracle. It's nothing short of a miracle. So my question to the people that are pro-choice would be, where do you draw the line between clump of cells and life? Is it, some people believe that it's sentience that defines life. Would you kill someone that's in a coma? Some people think that it's as soon as a child comes out of its mother's womb. Okay, so if should a premature child not be considered a child? It's still a child. Like, there's no argument that science can't disprove is wrong for the pro-choice argument. There's just absolutely no argument. I'd like to end this video by saying, like, one of my favorite quotes is, your rights end where mine begin. Meaning, the mother's right to murder her child should end where his / hers begin. Like, they have a right to life. If they've been conceived, they have a right to life. If you don't want that child, give it up for adoption, or just don't have sex, because you know, with when someone has some sex could possibly lead to pregnancy. There's just no way of not knowing that. So I'd like to end my presentation here. I really absolutely loved this activity. Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me any questions. I've had a lot more information that I wanted to put in it, but for time purposes, I didn't want to make it too long, so I tried to trim it down as much as I could. So yes, I hope that you have a good night.